My name's Dr. Paul Brewerton, the Strengths Guy, Doctor of Psychology and Chair and Founder of StrengthScope. I podcast each week just as you're getting your head back into work mode to give you a positive, strengths-based boost into your week ahead. My podcasts are packed full of tips and tools to help you get the best out of your working week. I hope you enjoy this week's podcast. Hi, I'm Dr. Paul Brewerton, the Strengths Guy, Doctor of Organisational Psychology and Founder and Chair of StrengthScope. I am delighted to have with me today Roohi and Nida Mohiyuddin, two thoroughly inspiring humans who have recently started out on launching a new business, New Power, designed to empower women through a 3-stage program, which they're going to go on to talk about in a minute. Roohi and Nida are going to be... Hi, guys, by the way. Hello.
Oh, hi.
I should probably just say hi, because, otherwise you're not saying anything. So Roohi and Nida are going to be telling their story, what led them to set out on their journey, what difference they hope to achieve in the world. And they'll also be giving you some tips and advice on how women can start to address their inner critic voice and turn their strengths into superpowers. I'm really excited for this podversation. I feel what Roohi and Nida are doing is timely, it's powerful, and hugely helpful for women who are seeking to build their confidence and become empowered. This is a podversation for everyone to listen to, by the way, not solely women. So please sit back and enjoy as I welcome Roohi and Nida to the Strengths Guy podcast. Welcome to you both again.
Hi.
Thank you for the introduction.
We're so excited to be here.
Nervous, but very excited to be here.
Very excited.
Good. Don't feel nervous. Just be happy in you. Okay, I'm going to give you a chance to talk now because I just did all the intro. So could you tell me a little bit, please, about how you got to where you are today? You know, you're setting out on this journey, but how did you get here? What have been your careers so far, your backgrounds, and what are you doing at New Power?
I think it's been an ever-evolving journey, and it's even just amazing to see over time how we keep going in different directions. But I think right now where we are, we're just the most happy with it. We're the eldest sisters of a large family, and we actually love being in a large family because I think having so many influential and amazing people growing up with has really inspired us to be better every step of the way. And we were raised to be good people, I think, more than anything.
Above anything else.
Yeah, and we're just taught to help other people, be good people. And so I think even with that, our career, we both went into teaching. So I'm a science specialist.
I'm a math specialist.
And it's just, even with children, it's teaching them something new and seeing that light bulb moment in them. But more than that, nurturing children to be their best selves. I think that's where it began. And I think we got to a stage where we realized that we were giving so much to other people, but we weren't doing the same for ourselves. And so at that point, we were thinking, okay, well, we're unhappy about certain things, but it's really our responsibility to turn inwards and think about what do we need to do to be the people that we really can be, because we were a lot more than what we were giving out to other people. And having that support with my sister, who's also my best friend, I think that was the most powerful part of it. And I think, so we started writing blogs to help people, but we knew that we wanted to connect on a more personal level. And so we really believe in the power of talking, the power of women connecting with other women, and just having that support with each other. We knew that we wanted to give that support to other women.
And more than anything, is we were reminding each other that our happiness is our own responsibility.
And so, so also we do this thing where when one of us aren't at our best selves, we call it showing each other the mirror of our best selves. So when one of us isn't feeling great, the other one of us will be like, actually, these are your amazing qualities. And I think that's so important for other people to have.
Amazing. It's fantastic to hear you talking in this way. As you're talking, I can hear the two of you. I can actually hear one of you better than the other. I think that's maybe positioning of the mic, but let's not, get into that right now. But I can hear the way that dynamic between you is something that is, lifting each of you up when you need it, which it feels as though it's relevant, that's relevant to the way that you have developed the Empowering Women program, which I'd like to come on to if that's okay.
No, perfect.
No, that's fine.
Cool. So first of all, tell me about New Power. You know, you've this is the name of your company, so it's your brand. What's the story behind that?
Okay, so New Power stands for Nurturing Your Uniqueness Through Empowerment. And I think it's really important that nurturing is in there, because we want we want women to feel empowered, but at the same time, not lose that nurturing part of themselves. Be soft and kind, be accountable, yet be compassionate. And I think that's where it comes from. And it's has our initials in there, which I think for us was important, because we are the support system at the beginning of the journey and continuing on afterwards. So we don't want women to feel like, oh, we've done the program, where do we go next? We want to always be a part of their continuous growth and journey.
We'll come on to that if we could, in terms of the structure of it, because I'm really interested to hear how you're planning to do that, to kind of create that that feeling of being supported, and it not just be for the time that someone's attending the program, which is often the case, right? With learning and development programs and courses, it feels great at the time, but then you go back to your life, and you kind of, within a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, it's a bit of a distant memory. You kind of remember that you had a good time, but you remember you learned some things, but you know, it kind of it fades a bit. So I'm intrigued to learn how you're sort of going to shore up against that happening with your program. So I wanted to ask you. You kind of touched on this already, but what are you, when you said, right, okay, New Power, this is what we are, this is our aim, this is the change we want to see in the world. Why are we doing this? You know, what is the thing? What is the passion that is driving your business?
I think it's to understand that being empowered should not be a privilege. It should be accessible to everyone. And it's more so making them understand. Again, we started off doing this, wanted to do this for children, because children are at their most confident when they're young, because they're very innocent beings. And what happens is, as life goes on and we hit a few turns here and there, we lose that confidence. We kind of lose ourselves. And we're here just to remind you that you need to reconnect with who you are and understand who you are to feel empowered.
And also to understand that everything you need is within you. And I think we remind ourselves of this all the time, that all the tools and skills you need to to face any challenge that you face in life, and we do face so many different types that we might be thrown off, you have all the skills to overcome them by yourself. You just need that support and reminder to know who you are and how you can approach them. And also, we didn't want, I think, like being in our 30s and feeling unhappy and unfulfilled, we don't want anyone to feel at a real low before they start a journey to empowerment. Like it should just be a part and parcel of your growth and development, I think.
You should be there, like you should be prepared. I mean, we can't be prepared for life,
Yeah,
but we should have some sort of tools and skills to understand how to approach anything that comes our way.
absolutely.
Perfect. That's so powerful. Like that, everything that you said there, it's, and it feels, I don't know why. Maybe it's because we are in the pandemic where we are at the stage that we are, and maybe dreaming of re-emerging from that right now. But there's something about this which is so timely as an offer, you know, and it, yeah, just so why now, and also why women specifically? Tell me a bit about that.
I think, like, as women, it's so important that something is created by women for women. And I think that's important because I think understanding ourselves as women and the challenges we face as women, it's really important for someone to connect at that same level. So, for example, like even being mums and the worries and the fears of, like, if I have a career, am I neglecting my children? If I'm spending time at home, am I neglecting myself? I think that's something that I think every woman,
In that role, can relate to.
yeah, and it's just helping women understand themselves at a better level and really embracing all their flaws and embracing everything they are, just to feel that they are worth everything that they are.
I mean,
Yeah,
Sorry,
come on.
because the pressures in life everyone gets through anyway. But I think with women sometimes it's a bit more specific. And with us, although we are trying not to have that onto our children, but it was very like roles were very gender orientated and how we should be as women, as mothers, as daughters. It was very specific to how the men in our family were treated. So we want to relate to that to let people know that if we can overcome certain things, it didn't stop being women didn't stop us, or it didn't change the way we should be seen
It shouldn't hold you back.
at all. Being mothers should not hold you back. I mean, there is a lot more to you, and this is why we're doing this for women. Because sometimes when you get stuck in a certain role, that's the only way you identify yourself, and you forget that there is so much more to you.
And I think like we got to a place we were like, okay, I'm a mother, I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, I'm an amazing friend, I'm a teacher, but who is Nida and who is Roohi? And I think once we started that journey of who are we as beings, as people, what do we love doing, and rediscovering those things, those were powerful things that I think every woman needs to
Remind herself.
absolutely.
Amazing. Thank you. I'm really keen now to hear about the program, the Confident Empowered Woman program that you've put together. I'm keen to understand almost the experience that women have on the program. You know, what's the felt experience, but maybe also some of the ways on the methods that you use. And I'm guessing at the moment, you know, when you're running these programs, you're doing it through a screen because we have no choice right now. But I'm just keen to, I mean, whatever you want to share. But you know, how does it work? Who's it for? What do you cover? You know, what are some of the things that the delegates, the women who are attending, what have they said by way of feedback? What are the benefits that they've gained? Just anything you want to say. Really keen to hear about it.
Okay, but first of all, like everything we have done is done through what we've learned ourselves, our own experiences. But being teachers, I mean, we enjoyed being teachers, and I think we were at our best when we were performing, presenting, having lesson plans, and presenting them to children. And we wanted to use that for our programs. So we spent a lot of time making these programs as fun, as accessible, as interactive as possible, because I think once you tune into that, make something fun and interactive, you're more likely to be vulnerable and open. And that's what we needed from our women. We ourselves were as vulnerable as we could be in expressing ourselves and sharing our own experiences, which led to other women sharing their experiences also.
So, and even it's just about reconnecting with your inner child and then understanding certain parts of you. Like, even so, basically, it's a threefold program. The first one starts with shutting down your inner critic. And we think that's such an important one because I think everyone does battle with the imposter syndrome, but women more so than men. But I think that's a starting point of understanding your inner critic. How do we shut it down, and giving step-by-step guides and tools to do that in a way that makes you feel like you have it under control, because that's the main thing. And I think
Sorry to talk over you, but I'm interested. The inner critic, you mentioned it a couple of times there, and I'm not sure everyone will know or be familiar with what that means. I have a reasonable understanding of it, I think, but could you just say a little bit more about what you mean by inner critic?
Well, I mean, it's like the inner critic personifies the negative thoughts we have about ourselves, and it instructs and influences our thoughts and our behaviors.
so. What it does is it diminishes our self-esteem slowly without us even realizing, by opposing our best interests, by strongly encouraging self-demeaning and self-destructive behavior, and it can do it by just creeping in at our vulnerable states and telling us that maybe we can't do something and we're not good enough, and then we end up listening to it and not putting forward our best, like not taking care of our best selves.
So it's that little voice that niggles in the back of your head when you, especially when you come into anything new territories, new people, and it's that voice that's telling you that you're just not good enough.
That's awesome. So that I get the link then to imposter syndrome again, and I podcast on this some time ago. So there is a, you know, for anyone who's interested, there's another episode to look up on imposter syndrome if you're interested. But or alternatively, you know, you could attend the Confident Empowered Woman program where you'll learn a lot more than on one podcast that I did. But you know, that imposter syndrome link, I think, to the inner critic makes a lot of sense, particularly if it's in new circumstances, you know, where you get that am I like, do they mean me? Is this really me? Should I be doing this? Or, and I can almost hear the voice that you're describing. I mean, we all have it within us. It's the self-talk that you're talking about, that affects everybody. And, we're just interested, where do you feel that might come from? Do you talk about that on the program?
Absolutely. And so that, I think lots of women feel liberated. We've got a lot of feedback that women say it's so interesting and helpful to actually look into where does our inner critic come from. So it could be from an experience in your childhood. It could be about having a teacher talk to you a certain way, having a parent speak to you a certain way. And it could be something that's not intentional, but you carry it with you throughout your life.
Or it's something small, but you're constantly reminded of it. So it has such a big impact on you.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So, going back then, you were talking about that inner critic as being the first phase of the program. So, helping delegates to understand where, what it is and what they can do about it. Keep going. What else is included?
Okay, so, and I think that's the most important one, because even when we're going through the program with other women, I think we still understand how much we need to work on ourselves and how it's always going to be a part of us, our own inner critics. And that's so important to know, that it's not that you'll be totally free from it, you'll just know how to manage it better. And that's important to know. And then you go on to the second part of our program, which is breaking down the barriers to your success. Because I think as women, certain things hold us back when they shouldn't. Like our goals and aspirations should be achievable, but also something that we should always work towards and not let things around us hold us back.
And we talk about the inner critic, but that's one of the biggest barriers that we have. But there are many other barriers that we feel are too big. And again, it's all about understanding the power you have overcoming this. Because sometimes it might feel like everything is too big for you, but it's because of the importance you're giving it, and you're taking away the importance that you need to give yourself.
And then the third one is turning your strengths into superpowers, because once you've shut down your inner critic, once you've overcome the barriers that are holding you back, then you can really embrace your strengths and turn them into your superpowers.
Okay, so that's interesting, in that if you try and do that too quickly, then potentially, it may not fly, like the whole attempt to turn your strengths into something bigger and better may not work, because you're not quite ready, because you haven't knocked out some of the barriers, and, particularly the internal barriers that you may have. So I get that. Yeah.
But also, like, the heart of each of our program is about being self-aware and making sure that you are looking after your well-being above everything else. Because you need to actually, when like, sometimes you go into overdrive, as you said, that you jumping through the steps. But the main thing is, if you're not looking after yourself, then you can't do your best unless you are your best.
Absolutely. Okay. I'm interested again in the felt experience. You've talked a little bit about how you wanted it to be interactive and fun, almost, getting to the find your joy, the inner child, in a way, that if you can have fun, engaging experiences and learn at the same time, it's more likely to stick. I'm interested in, you were talking about support ongoing, and people who attend the program feeling part of something, and then beyond the program also feeling supported. So what have you done in the design of the program to provide that?
As teachers, we do give you homework.
Okay.
So that's one part of, like, checking up and making sure we give you practical tips and advice that you can take with you, and are holding yourself accountable of doing, every day.
Practicing it. So just be things like, write down 3 things you're grateful for every night, 3 things you wake up being proud of, and just like giving a little 7-day supportive, like step-by-step things of they should be doing. But then we just check up on them after that 7 days, see how it went, how's it going. And then we also offer, which I think is really important and valuable, a one-to-one aftercare support, just to see, are you getting everything that you need from this program? What else do you need from us that we could actually support you with?
And how you found it helpful, and what was not helpful, or what you would have wanted to see more of.
Okay, great.
I think it's so important that when women come together and they open up and they share their vulnerabilities and they feel like actually we're all going through similar things, I think that in itself is such an empowering experience.
Yeah, so I get this sense of a number of women in a room, whether it's virtual, whether it's, you know, in the real world at some point in the future, and that in itself, you know, you have that listening experience, that, you know, hearing from other people, and relating to what's being said, or not relating to what's being said, but still, you know, holding the space for that person to be able to talk to, you know, their own experience, their own truth, and that in itself feeling really important, you know, like I'm being heard.
Yeah.
Very important. Like Nida keeps on saying, like talk. Sometimes we underestimate the power of talk, and having that space to be able to talk freely really allows everyone to connect with each other in a way they didn't know they could,
and connect with their own voice. I think women sometimes lose their voice in trying to be everything for everyone else. And so that's so important to take back control of your voice and take back control of who you are as a person.
So powerful. Thank you. So I'm keen to hear a little bit more. I know, you know, the program you've put together is one that, you know, is available to people, but it is a program that, you know, you would pay for. So I don't want to ask you to give away everything, but I'm really, you know, if there's anything that you could share with the listeners around, you know, tips or models, anything where, you know, they can almost put something into practice straight away and get
I
a
mean,
flavor of what you cover.
of course, because whenever we do have a taster, also we all say that anything you found helpful, just share it as you can.
Yeah.
So one of the models that we have worked hard to create is called the Inner Critic Vulnerability Spiral. So it's how the increase in your vulnerability gives more power to the inner critic, and things like anxiety and insecurity, fear, lack of self-care, and stress that could accumulate and become much bigger and have and end up having the inner critic ends up having a bigger hold on you.
Yeah. And so what we call the other side of the spiral building immunity to the inner critic. And like we said, talking is so powerful. When you're hearing things you say about yourself and you voice it to someone that you trust and you love, and someone that cares about you, you can shut down that inner critic so quickly. So for example, if I said to my sister, who loves me and I love, and I said to her, I feel like I'm not worthy of that job. And she will talk with you, of course you are. You've got all these amazing skills. That shuts it down straight away. Having self-awareness builds up immunity to the inner critic, where you're very aware of at times when you're most vulnerable. And so maybe things like, I know that I get stressed and vulnerable if I haven't ate properly, or if I haven't slept properly. So I'm very aware of that. So I wouldn't listen to my inner critic, because I know, okay, that's just me being overworked, overtired. I need to address that first. And then questioning and using evidence for your inner critic. Now, when your inner critic says to you, you're not good enough for that position, what is the evidence behind it? So question it. That builds your immunity to it. And also, like with everything else that we talk about, well-being, taking care of yourself, because that does build immunity to the inner critic.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, we were talking before a little bit about a method that you use, which I just felt it sounds so creative, and it really, I don't know, it felt very visual for me, to explore your inner critic. You were talking about using art. Can you give a little bit on that?
Of course, I mean, one of the first steps is to identify your inner critic. And what we like people to do, and we do it with them, is to draw. If you could give your inner critic a face or a picture
Or a voice, isn't it?
words, yep, what would it be? Because I think sometimes we think the inner critic is part of us, and it is. We do have everyone. Like sometimes we do talk to you. Do have times where you talk to yourself, or you have voices in your head, but it's actually identifying what the voices are that's part of you, and what the voices which is an inner critic, which is not beneficial to you, or not beneficial hearing what the inner critic has to say.
I think a lot of women said it was really powerful to see how they either drew themselves that was a mini version of themselves, and they said, actually, I am being my own worst enemy here, where I'm speaking to myself in a way where I wouldn't speak to anyone else like that. Or they draw something that looks really scary, and an image of like a character that's nothing like them, and they said, actually, it's so helpful to separate myself from that, to understand it's just in my head, it's not really a part of me, and I'm able to separate from it. So we like using, I think art is really therapeutic, and we've always been very creative people anyway.
Yeah.
So it's really, and we do lots of drawing activities just to I think, visualize what's going on and how you think and see things. And then even just personifying it even further by giving it a voice and a character of.
And understanding what it says to you, because it's very important sometimes when someone has said something to you, you internalize it and that becomes part of who you are. And then when you go back and actually look back and say, well, it wasn't me, it was this person said that to me, and I need to now take it out and separate myself and understand that that has got nothing to do with who I am.
Yeah, who I am now. Absolutely.
Perfect. Great. I love the sound of it as a program, and having that almost multimodal approach, I think, will really help everybody, because some people will, I guess, like the talking more. Other people will like the drawing, the art, and the models that you're talking about as well, where you're journaling, etc. It sounds like it's really experiential and kind of knitted into life actually as well. So it sounds fantastic. I'm interested, because I'm the strengths guy. I'm also interested in strengths, because you talked about turning your strengths into superpowers, and what that means. So that's your third module, right? So once you've dealt with your inner critic, once you've started to consider how you can break through the barriers, then you can move on to thinking more about strengths into superpowers. So how do you do that? What are the kinds of things you do with strengths?
So one of the activities we have is stick my strengths, which is trying to identify what you believe your strengths are, but at the same time also understanding what strengths others see in you.
And why we did that was, I think it's a family thing we do every birthday, where everyone goes around in the family and says one thing about you that they love. And I think that always energizes us and makes us feel so much more empowered, because you hear things about you that you didn't really think of for yourself.
You see yourself in a different light.
So what that means is that people will stick strengths onto you that they think are your best strengths from just knowing you over the course, and you will write down your own strengths and realize, actually, I have so many more strengths than I actually thought that I did. So that's one of them. And also, it's also about thinking about how you may think you have weaknesses, but actually you could turn them into strengths. And also identifying things that people always approach you for. So people might always come for you for a certain thing because they understand that's your strength. Now, how you turn that into your superpower is focus on the things that you love doing and know that you are good at.
And even
Absolutely.
things like, if you think it's a weakness, so for example, if you think that, oh, I'm a type of person who cannot multitask, well, then there are studies that have shown that actually focusing on one thing at a time and giving it your all can get better results than actually doing 2-3 things in one go. So whatever weaknesses you think you have, how can you harness them or look at them as strengths that can benefit you much better?
Yeah, I get it. We talk about, at Strengths Coach, we talk about bringing in, a strength you may have to overcome what you might see as a deficit or a draining area. There's always plenty of ways, to get the outcome that you're looking for. It's and also, I guess, calling on other people, right? If it's an area that is really problematic for you, then there's nothing to stop you from owning that and saying, actually, I know this is an area where I could use some help, and I want to develop out my support network so that I get that help. That's
Absolutely.
that's empowerment too, right? It's being prepared to be vulnerable
Of
and
course.
ask for help.
Because that's what we're
Fantastic.
saying as well, like vulnerable can be both courageous and important. It's
Yeah,
if as long as you're opening up into a safe environment, it's
yeah,
understanding who you are, and being vulnerable could be like, and it could just not be courageous for you, but it could be inspiring for other people as well to see.
Yeah,
definitely.
absolutely.
Definitely. Okay, that's fab. That's yeah, there's a lot in there, and I'm really I'm really excited for this program, but I'm also just really pleased that you were able to share some of that as well, so everyone can get a real sense of what's included. Okay, good. So we haven't got very much longer left, so I just wanted to ask you if you could, fast forward. You're embarking on this journey. You've made great progress already, but if you could fast forward a year and wave a magic wand and have magical things happen between now and then, what would those things be? What would you have achieved? What would how close would you be to that vision, that change you want to see in the world? What would be happening?
We would like to see as many women as possible owning everything that they are and seeing how amazing they are exactly as they are, and sharing that with other women to empower other women. I think the power of women supporting women is so invaluable, and just passing on any knowledge that they have learned to other people, I think that would just make us so proud and happy of everyone around us.
Fantastic.
Because again, we say this again and again, empowerment should not be a privilege. It should be accessible to every woman, everywhere.
So,
and men too.
absolutely,
Of course.
and men too. And even just like passing it on to children and girls, so they feel empowered from the beginning, so they don't get to a point where they're like, okay, I don't know who I am, I don't know where to go to, how do I start this journey of empowerment? It should just be something in an innate quality
that's there with them throughout their journey.
Yeah.
That's so generous as well, just to, you know, to want that change to happen as a result of someone attending, to kind of pass it forward, to pay it forward, to have those conversations. And I've got to say, I don't know if you know this, I maybe or maybe not shared this with you in the past, but you know, one of the early taster sessions that you ran, someone who I know really well attended, had a conversation with me as a result, to just kind of explain and describe the experience that she'd had and some of the learnings that she'd taken. And I then went on and spoke to my partner about that night, you know, to just as a kind of, just as a thought that could help her, right? And us in a conversation. And that's exactly what you're talking about, right? It's like,
Yeah, that's exactly it.
yeah.
That makes me so happy just to hear that.
Yeah, because again, we felt lost. We didn't know who we were, and it's just like, if anyone could have just had a conversation with us, it would have been so. It would have helped us so much. And why wouldn't you want to help other people in that position? I mean, we started this not just to help ourselves, but to do this for the girls, the next generation that we have, our children, and to be able to give that on and pass it on to even further out, reach out to more women. I mean, that would be amazing for us.
Amazing. Okay, if the listeners want to get in touch with you, if they want to find out more, then what's the best way of doing that?
It'll probably be through our website, where they can just click a button and there's a contact form where they can just book in a call or even a conversation. And our website is www.nupwr.co.uk. That's newpower.co.uk.
Perfect. I love it as well, actually. Like, it's really cool you've got that URL. Like, that's a really good URL. I really like it a lot. Okay, look, both of you, thank you so much for taking the time and sharing your insights, your reasons for setting up the business and the program, and your experiences as well. It's been great to hear and very real. And I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you for taking the time.
No, thank you so much for inviting us to your podcast.
It's been so fun, and it's been so interesting to have this conversation. It just felt like talking to you how we usually talk to you, which is great.
Fantastic. That's good. That's how it should be, right? Okay, so yeah, listen out for more Strengths Guy podcasts and podversations in the months ahead. There will be more podversations as we go. So thank you, Roohi and Nida, again, and yeah, stay strong.